Thank you, Kim. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to paint a picture for you. It's 334 BC in Athens, and thousands of spectators are streaming down to the huge amphitheater at the base of the Acropolis. If you look at the back cover of your programs, you will see it. The theater of Dionysus, god of entertainment. It seats 15,000 people, and it's filling up fast. In fact, practically the whole town is there. And for the next week, the administration of the city will come to a complete standstill. They've come to boo, cheer, laugh, and cry at some of the finest drama that's ever been written. They're not too bashful, this crowd. Everyone has an opinion, and everyone certainly expresses it. Democracy is what these people are all about. In the front row sits a wealthy but very nervous sponsor of the first play, the producer, Mr. Lysicrates. He's paid for the costs of the chorus, and he's even had a hand in directing himself. You are sitting halfway up, in between a rich merchant and a local shoemaker. No one has paid to get in. The city has even paid the shoemaker and other poor citizens to attend. You grab one of the snacks the city has also provided. The noise is incredible until the play starts. Well, at the end of that week in 334 BC, the winner, by public acclaim, was indeed Mr. Lysicrates. The play with his chorus has been lost, but something, of course, has remained. Mr. Lysicrates, elated at the high prestige of his win, and maybe wishing to boast a little, commissioned a lovely monument to celebrate it. That monument still stands in Athens today. In marble, it captures the thrill of the drama competition, the contest of ideas, the exploration of human dilemmas, the passionate involvement of the citizens, and the love of beauty that were all characteristic of the society of the time. Over the centuries, just like the society and what it stood for, the monument fell into neglect and disrepair. It had to wait for the 18th century to be rediscovered. In the 1750s, two young Englishmen visiting Athens on the Grand Tour made detailed drawings of the whole structure, including the frieze at the top. You will see in your program one of their sketches, the one of the youthful Dionysus. The reason these two young Englishmen were interested in the monument in the first place was that in the 18th century, the ideas of the ancient Greeks were being revived, especially in England. We still live with them today. Democracy, the rule of law, the contest of ideas, the love of beauty and harmony, especially in architecture and sculpture, a fascination with philosophy, science and oratory, an exploration of the complexities of human behavior, the belief that everyone could understand and have a legitimate opinion on politics and art. All of these were ancient Athenian concepts that began to influence education and politics 2,000 years later. They took root. And wherever the English settled all over the world, America, for instance, and the new land in the southern hemisphere, those beautiful, civilizing, Greek-inspired ideas went with them. Not a million miles from where we are sitting now, in College Street and in King Street, those Greek ideas found valiant expression in two new schools. Sydney College and W.T. Cape's Sydney Academy were created to give a strong classical education to all the talented boys of the colony, regardless of social standing or religion. And one of those youngsters was James Martin, a poor Irish lad from Parramatta who entered W.T. Cape School at King Street in 1832. The extraordinary story of how this brilliant, articulate boy rose from the servants' quarters and horse boxes of Parramatta Government House to become Premier of the state and its Chief Justice, and to give his name to the hub of Sydney can be found in the Martin Oration booklet you have all received. But the point I want to make is this. James Martin would never have been what he was if he hadn't been able to take advantage of the civilizing ideas out of ancient Athens that were prevailing and that he learned at school. Because of those ideas, he could not be completely excluded from advancement in society, which would have been his fate in another time and another place. From those ideas, he learned about democracy, justice, and the rule of law. Together with his native eloquence, his strength of character, you only need to read his personal motto on the front cover of your booklets. They empowered him to rise, become a wealthy lawyer, and argue convincingly in a parliament for self-determination and empowerment for the colony. From that whole worldview, he acquired a love of harmonious beauty, and so was inspired to create our own lovely replica of the monument of Lysicrates, using the sketches made in the 18th century. In short, the culture that had emerged 2,000 years before on the other side of the world was the making of James Martin in this raw and remote new society. He never forgot that debt. Indeed, to our great benefit even today, it was in many ways the making of the society itself. And perhaps, best of all, it gave him the sublime Homer. For Martin, no civilized society could exist for material ends alone. For him, as for the ancient Greeks, no one could be a full human being without a large quantum of culture. So for him, civilization and culture were not supposed to be confined to a tiny elite. On the contrary, they were for everyone. This is what we are aiming to achieve in our own way in the Lysicrates project. All our events are free and open to people from all postcodes. We believe no one should be excluded from good art because they can't afford the price of admission. All our winners are chosen by the audience in an unfiltered democratic process. And just like the Athenians, we also want to showcase and celebrate our local writing and theatrical talent, democracy, and civilization. Now, as we were looking into the background of our own Lysicrates monument, we discovered something that showed how well Australians had absorbed those two big ideas. In 1941, in the middle of the worst war the world had ever seen, Australians did two remarkable things. They voted in a state election here in New South Wales and changed the government. And with the contribution of all three parties, Liberal, Country and Labour, they saved the monument from its planned destruction for military purposes. You will find the details in the oration booklet. Quite a triumph for those millennial ideas of democracy and civilization, and a great testimony to the calm fortitude of that generation of Australians. Moving up closer to the present, Patricia and I have been thrilled that two of the acorns we've planted have already sprouted into oaks, so to speak. In our first year, Justin Fleming's first act, the runner-up, The Savvy Women, became a full play called The Literati, and that went on to a sold-out 8-week season at the Griffin and the Riverside theatres. We saw it, Patricia and I, 3 times, and every time the audience was rolling in the aisles, including the two of us. The model worked. The fabulous, unique Lee Lewis had taken an unprecedented risk and gave up to an audience the power to choose a winning play. We're still amazed, Patricia and I, at her vision and her audacity. And of course, the other acorn is the full restoration of the monument itself, something which could never have been accomplished without the strong support of Minister Perrottet. What about the future? This year and next, we are trying a couple of experiments. We'll be live streaming this competition so as to create a virtual theatre of Dionysus and giving those viewers a separate vote. And we'll also be starting a competition for playwriting for children. We're calling it the Lysicrates Martin competition and holding it in Western Sydney in the Riverside Theatre. Only the kids will be voting, not the parents. Some of those kids may not have had much exposure to the ideals of ancient Greece or to the magic of live theatre, and we'd like, in a very small way, to help shape some of the citizens of the future. Democracy and civilization. Again, with the support of Minister Perrottet, we've commissioned 2 statues of the young James Martin. And looking more long-term, Patricia and I have always aimed to have the whole Lysicrates enterprise stand on its own 2 feet. We've created a structure, a foundation with a board. We've obtained DGR tax-deductible status for the foundation. We've issued handsome books capturing the essence of the project. With the help of Vanessa Tay and Sandra Gav, 2 wonderful women, we've established an annual fundraising dinner. And we're building up an endowment to make the foundation independent of Patricia and me when we are gone, just as the Archibald continued after 1919 when J.F. Archibald passed on. We really want the Australians of the future to be exposed to all those great ideas of democracy, civilization, and beauty that miraculously emerge in the Athens of ancient times. We want them to be exposed to the unrepeatable thrill of live theatre. We want them to value the work of Australian artists. We want them to vote. And it might not be 334 BC today, and we might be only 500 people, not 15,000 yet. And the city might not be coming to a standstill for the Lysicrates play competition yet. But we too are voting. In our own way, we are embodying those 2 great ideals of the past, democracy and civilization. In conclusion, I'd like to thank our great tripartisan board, our wonderful donors listed in your program, our sponsors, including Scoot Airlines, who are donating 2 return tickets to Athens to tonight's winner, so they can finish their play right near the original monument. And of course, they also get the $12,500 prize. To Minister Stokes and Jeff Seelig, who supported us at the outset. To Kim Ellis, Esmeralda Magrin, and all the amazing staff from the Royal Botanic Garden. To Joseph Murray from Trippers White, who have donated tonight's catering. And to all those from the Griffin Theatre, especially Will Harvey, and of course, Lee Lewis. It's been lots of fun, you democratic, civilized bunch. In the months to come, let's ramp it up. And now, the extraordinary, the visionary, the audacious Miss Lee Lewis. Thank you.